survey fleets are not crap. They're not like a bunch of scout ships. It's very disconcerting and sort of misleading. These three ships in here are all cruisers, and they're all combat cruisers. So they're basically your base ship anyway. And so when your enemy, if you see an enemy and you see a survey fleet and it's trying to attack your system, don't go, it's a survey fleet, it's not going to kill me. Just because it says survey fleet doesn't mean it's not going to do damage, basically is what I'm saying. So this would be the kind of ship that is in a survey fleet, actually this right here, more specifically. But the AI, when you first start, does not provide you with the most maxed out version of the ship that you could possibly have, which is actually kind of annoying, because that means you need to make a prototype right off the bat. So you can use these arrows up here, but I actually prefer to click, and you'll see that there are different... your ship is basically split up into three sections: the bow, the center, and the aft sections. In the beginning, you're not going to have any different aft sections because you actually have to get a different engine. But as far as the bow is concerned, the Hammerhead provides better guns. So standard, you get 2 light guns and 1 medium gun on top. And the Hammerhead changes that to 3 medium guns, which I'd much rather have. And it looks a little cooler. And so you can change any of the ammo types on any of these. You can even go with the smaller guns on the bigger turrets, and it will make them, double gunned. It'll have 2 guns on 1 turret, triple guns, whatever, based upon what they are. So if you choose the smallest round, like a gauze cannon round or a small laser, and you put that on a large cannon or a large turret spot, it'll make it triple barrel, because that's going from the smallest turret, the medium turret, and then the large turret. So you've got 3 times bigger, 3 times more firepower than you would in a single light turret. And then there's two turrets, or 2 guns right here. Or you can switch it to the bigger gun and then have 1 gun, but it'd be much more powerful, which is generally what I would do. Right, yeah, Trist. I might play Sig, I don't know. I hate playing alone, but you know that. Well, anyone who's watched me knows that. Anyway, back to the tutorial. So, there's another thing that you can do, which is when you will get various types of alloys, metal alloys, or basically hull reinforcing sections of technology that you can reinforce the sections of your ship with, if you research armor technology. Now you start as the Terrans with polysilicate alloy. I don't know if everyone does. And you can apply that to the section, and you can see that it makes a fairly significant difference. I mean, every little bit counts in the beginning of the game to give yourself an edge over the enemy. So that's that with those. As far as the middle section is what determines what your ship is, basically. And so even in the very beginning of the game, you start with quite a few options, like assault carrier. And these are these battle riders I was talking about earlier. You get assault shuttles to start with, and you get 4. But the crazy thing is, with these assault shuttles and the other battle riders, when you get them, is you can actually design them too. These are drones, which you can also design and change the weaponry of. And here are the assault shuttles, which you can design, but in this case not change the weaponry of. And there's no tech options, probably because we just have no options for these, and I don't know if you can just change the assault shuttles anyway. So there's the assault shuttle carrier, the Command and Conquer, which just looks like a space AWAC, if you ask me. Command and Conquer. See, now I'm saying that because Ninja was saying that. Command and Control. There's salvage and repair ships, which I've actually never built, but you can obviously guess what the use for those are. From what I understand, salvage will help you with research if you're salvaging enemy ships and they have different technology, or even if they have similar technology, it will help you in those fields to salvage their ships. And repair, obviously, you can repair your ships in space without being on a planet. There's the supply ships, which also goes without saying as far as those are concerned. Boarding ships, which I have not used yet, which basically have fuck tons of, like they have these marine pods on them. And they can probably capture ships. I've never tried. There's the colonizers. And the drone carriers, which are similar to the other carriers, except these can only hold one drone from the look of it. Probably because the drone's more powerful by default. And then there's the construction ships. So armor is your basic combat ship that you're going to want to use. Your workhorse, I guess. Boarding strength. Yeah, that would make sense. Boarding strength is based on the race that you are, so Zool are the best in troop pod combos. So, let's say let me change this back to Hammerhead. Let's say we want this design, right? I haven't really fooled with this much. So, when you're done with the design you like, you then go over and you hit Submit Design, and you can choose the name, and it's retarded and named it Vancouver to begin with, and I don't feel like changing it.
Aye, Command. We'll save this for future reference.
And now it's in the Naval Archives. Now, you can also weapon test, which can actually be quite important to see what your vulnerabilities are, especially since you can fire missiles at your ship. So, fire 5 missiles. If you have the ability to deflect missiles with shields or anything like that, or shoot them down with point defense or anything like that, that will show you what your weaknesses are. If you can actually shoot down the missiles, how many missiles your shields can take before they drop, that kind of thing. So basically how much raw damage you're going to be able to take. It gives you a better idea, and this gives you a better idea of how much forward firepower you're going to have, things like that. Now, mass drivers have a high chance of pushing your targets when they hit them. As you can see, it's actually pushing this because, obviously you're dealing with driving a piece of mass into another mass. And then, of course, there's the broadside damage. And you can see these ships don't particularly have a good broadside, in my opinion. They do much better going forward. The dreadnoughts have much better broadside than these. And you have almost no aft attack. So, that'll give you more of an idea of what your ship's capable of, or what it's going to look like, even. So anyway, go back from there. So now we've got a prototype that we can make. We have a new design, and so every new design requires a prototype. So you have to be careful, because every time you change the design, you need to make a prototype. Now, prototypes are far more expensive and take longer to make than a normal ship. And they're pretty gay, because they're just expensive as hell. So let me show you how prohibitively expensive it is to do this in the beginning of the game. You're going to go to the Build Ships icon. Now you can build ships on each individual planet, not just system. This was something I didn't quite understand. I didn't quite understand until today how trade fully worked. And you're actually going to need to build ships on each planet if you want to do trade properly. Now, that depends. I think you really just need ships in each system, because I don't know if each planet contributes to the trade in the system. I don't think it does. I think they simplified it. So to build ships, I'm going to go in here, and you can see that basic cruiser that we start with, that's already in some of our fleets, it only costs 77,000. And the upkeep is fairly low. So, we could add, even right now, we could build one. But the upgraded version of that with the hammerhead front and the polysilicate alloy on it costs a horrifying 407,000 for the prototype. And then after that, underneath it shows what it will cost after that, which is 101,000, which is not that much worse than 70,000. But the initial prototype is going to set you back quite a bit. So what that means is you're going to have to keep with your crappy ships in the beginning, or you're going to have to focus on economy tech before you can, really shit out a bunch of better ships. Because this ship is significantly better than the one that you start with. It's still going to die, but I am going to, Brooke, don't worry. So anyway, your prototypes show up in purple. You click prototype design. It'll come up here. It says build time 4 turns. Savings cost is 407,000, and you'd submit the order. Now you can create invoices and then make them favorites so that, when you want to build, let's say you find a fleet type you like. When you want to, that's for more mid to late game. Let's say it's 1 command ship, 3 supply ships, and 4 combat ships. Then you would put them in. You could create an invoice, save it, and then every time you want to create that again, you just click on the invoice and it creates the whole thing. So, you don't have to sit there and look through all your ships, and it gets kind of gay. So anyway, you submit the order. Don't want to add that invoice to my favorites.
Construction on the prototype is underway, Director.
And if you want to delete it, there's a little trash can down there. Good to go. Normally it'll say add to invoice if it's not a prototype. You can only put 1 prototype in an invoice. You'd have to create separate invoices otherwise. And you can also design from here in case you need to make a couple design changes if you were like, oh shit, I need to do that. But that's just a convenience thing, really, because it's not that hard to get to the design menu. Alright, next menu is going to be Diplomacy Manager. I can't show you anything about this, but this is where you would go in order to conduct diplomacy with anyone that you've met. Now you have to meet them before you conduct diplomacy. And you're going to need a diplomatic station in order to increase relations with them. So actually let's go over the stations, because that's one thing I'm going to need to do next anyway. So here's your station manager. Looks like a weird ass mushroom. So you start with that naval base I was talking about before. Your naval base also starts somewhat upgraded. What it doesn't have is a lot of combat modules. Now, like I said, the naval base maintenance is fairly high at 100,000 for this particular naval base because it's so high. One thing that you absolutely have to keep in mind is the upkeep cost of your stations when you build them, because it's not always prevalent and easy to see on the screen how much upkeep cost it's going to be at a glance. But if you upgrade your station early, not only is it extremely expensive to upgrade, let me just show you how much it would cost to fully upgrade the station to the next level. So you hit upgrade, comes up with the upgradable stations. You click on the station, you click on the construction fleet. That's 1.25 million to upgrade that station to the next level. Now obviously you're not dumb enough in the beginning of the game knowing you only have 100,000 to upgrade that, right? Right. But you can imagine the upkeep cost on that, considering the maintenance cost, considering how expensive it is just to build that. So just be smart about it. Don't upgrade these stations too much. For the beginning of the game, upgrading it to the 2nd tier is probably the best you're going to get out of it. The other stations don't cost as much to upgrade as this. So, but you can see right here, even just upgrading the modules. Let's say I want to max out, you just hit the max button. Max out the combat modules. I've got 4 more I need to build, right? Then you'd hit confirm build order. Suddenly that's 240,000 that's going to cost. Now if you say, well fuck, I only have 100,000, you can say, well, let's cancel these. Now I'm only going to have 60,000. Confirm that again. I don't think you have to, but I just do that. So then you could do it one at a time. Every time you have 100,000, make a 60,000 one. That's fine. And by clicking on the modules, it does tell you in the module description down here what each one of these things does. And if you end up saying,